The Gi spot. I'd hit that.
Welcome to the Gi Spot podcast. My name's Rachael Bradshaw and I'm a black belt in Jiu Jitsu.
Hello again, and I'm Kaz Page and I'm a purple belt in Jiu Jitsu. I don't know what I love more at the moment. The fact that we get to do this every week, or the fact that you're now raising your eyebrows at every intro.
Yeah, I know, because I'm like, I know what you're going to do and it's not going to work.
But I've been so good the last couple of recordings. I've been very good. I've been sitting on my hands almost. You know I'll be silent if you make me sit on my hands.
Oh, is that what they used to do at school?
Yeah, pretty much.
Good little Catholic school.
Yeah.
Sit on your hands, Karen.
Yeah, that's what my father used to say to me.
Really?
I need you to shut up for a minute. Can you just sit on your hands?
Ah, so it stems back to childhood.
Yeah, it's a real thing. Like, because I do this, if you have a look and you watch me when I talk, I'm always using my hands, and it is actually like they're almost connected to my mouth kind of thing.
Everyone knows because you keep hitting them.
Sorry, producer Matt.
It reminds me of the kids so I teach kids class in an afternoon and I teach the 4 to 8 year olds, and when kids are listening and not thinking too much, it's amazing how many of their fingers will go straight into their noses. And so when I start to see nose picking on the mats, I'm like, oh, gross. That's my first thought. And then second thought is, I say to them, I say, okay, everyone, hands together, and they all clap their hands, and then I go, hands in laps.
Yeah.
So hands together, hands in laps, and that all of a sudden gives their hands something to do other than going up the nose. So
you'll notice Scarlett and I, if we're in competition, like if we're in talking with people,
you pick nose.
No, we don't pick our nose. Gave up on that a few years ago, so it's all good. Moved on. But we'll pick at our nails, or we'll pick at our fingers, or we'll twitch our hands together. If we're standing, we'll rock. And, you know, there's if you want me to engage, I have to be able to move on some level.
Okay.
And it was so funny because the other day I've got, you know, obviously I'm 52, I'm older and I'm more visually aware of shit that I'm doing and all the rest of it. And I had to go in for a meeting in at their new school with Scarlett to talk through, you know, autism support and ADHD support and all the rest of it and what it looks like for them. And it was, as Scarlett and I walked into this room, and there was 3 of their specialists sitting around this table, and Scarlett and I kind of looked at each other and I laughed and went, feels like a firing squad, doesn't it? And we walk in and sit down, and the ladies laughed, which was good. But then I noticed we sat with them and we talked with them for about an hour, and both Scarlett and I the whole way through, we're doing stuff with our hands, we're twitching, we're moving, we're whatever. And I'm looking at her and looking at me, and I'm like, these people think we're freaks. I'm like, oh, no, that's right. They deal with us all the time.
Fidget spinners were a big thing for sort of autism and ADHD.
Yep.
How do you have?
They're amazing.
Yeah,
I do.
You love them?
Yeah, I've got some. And I mean, that's why I sit here. I might not write anything for our episodes or whatever, but I must have a pencil in my hand. You'll find every episode I've had a pencil in my hand.
Yeah.
And sometimes I also just scribble on a piece of paper.
Yep.
Because my brain just needs to focus on what's being said.
Right.
And so if you start talking about something and I'm like, oh, I need to remember that and I need to be able to come back to that when you're finished, I'll start scribbling.
Yep.
And so then I can capture the information and absorb. Scarlett's got a bedroom full of Pop-It toys and Twidget toys, and we bought her once, it's a light switch, but it's just on a box.
Right.
A little box thing, and it just allows her to flick the switch on and off, on and off, on and off. And it was to stop her doing it to our actual light switches in the house. So, yeah, they do work. Yeah. And she's actually got, at school, they give her a wobble board. So she actually gets to sit at her desk, and her feet, and many other kids in the school have got it too, but their feet sit on this board and it just wobbles.
Wobble.
Yeah, and it'll actually,
I guess it stops them from tapping their feet, which would be really annoying.
But it also stops the need for fidget toys on top of the desk, which become disruptive for other kids. Gotcha. And so this is under the table. She gets to wobble, and that allows her then to concentrate on the teacher.
Amazing.
I know. There you go. Welcome to the autism world.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's actually quite fascinating. So
It is. Yeah. Okay, well, that kind of replaces our retro, I guess.
Oh, no. How's your week been?
Well, let's move on to your week. Your week is probably way better than my week.
My week's been really busy. I feel like I haven't stopped. I've got still other things that I've got on my plate at the moment. I'm chasing my tail.
You're like 17 days in now, straight.
Yeah. So we had a competition last weekend on a Sunday. Sunday's usually my day of rest. And then we had a seminar this last Sunday. And so, yeah, I'm like 17, 18 days of nonstop jiu-jitsu every single day. Lucky I love it.
Yeah.
But I don't know that I even love it quite that much sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, there's even, for your neurotypical people, that I'm assuming there must be a limit where you just get peopled out.
Oh, I do. And I'm an introvert. So it's not that. It's just like not just being able to switch off. Because a lot of the time, like I'm waking up in the morning and I may have had an inquiry or something come in through the night or last night that I missed or whatever. So almost as soon as I wake up, if I check my emails, there's something there or a message from a student or something like that. And then often it's amazing to me that how these days, time, when I was growing up, you would never call someone after 7:30 or 8 o'clock, right?
Yep.
But now messages will come in, emails will come in like 10:30, 11 p.m. That's because everyone's sitting at home and they're I haven't sent that email off. I'm, not expecting that someone's going to answer it at night, but they'll think to send it at night. And I'm sitting there and, there's another email. So I might be 11 p.m. at night and still thinking, you know what, I'll just reply to it now because then I don't have to worry about it in the morning.
See, you've got to put your systems on snooze. There's got to be. I do it with my kids too.
Yep.
So all my kids' applications shut down at 8 p.m.
Yep.
They can use their alarm and one of them can use music to help her get to sleep.
Yep.
Everything else shuts down at 8 p.m.
Yeah.
And I noticed too, a lot of my friends over in America, I might be messaging them at 10 o'clock because I've just thought about something or whatever, and it will show me that they've gone into sleep mode.
Yeah.
This person's in sleep mode and may not respond.
Yeah.
Put your stuff in sleep mode.
Yeah, I should do that. I should put more boundaries in place. It's just more stuff than I'd have to do tomorrow.
Yes, that's very true. That is true. But it also might mean that you're getting that block.
Yes.
Downtime.
And that's
you can't put
important
me
too.
on silent because I'm still messaging you at 9 o'clock and I go, hey, what about this? You can put everybody else on silent.
Something like that. Anyway, I'm sure it's gonna calm down soon, but I have some exciting news.
Do tell.
We are going to America for our anniversary. So we booked that last night.
That's exciting.
Yes. So that will be in July and we're looking at we'll hit up some academies over there. We're going to fly into LA. We've already got some academies on our list and things like that, but it'll be real. I've never been to America. So this is very exciting for me. Grant has been several times through water polo tours and things like that. So there's lots of things on the list that he wants to show me, but I am so excited.
I'm so confused. I thought that got taken off the...
Well, it was off the plate, was on the plate, was off the plate. And we were sitting there last night going, if we don't book something, July's going to come and go. And Grant was like, I really want to do the US with you. I want to show you the things that I've seen, and I'm like, okay, just do it. Just book it. Let's just make the decision and do it.
Yay.
So it's done.
Excellent. Well done. Well, we'll get to see a plan of where you're going before you go. And
I'm sure we'll have to come up with an itinerary. But yeah, last night we started a bit of a bucket list and all the things we want to see. So I really want to see Alcatraz. I really want to go to see the Grand Canyon. We probably will hit Vegas for one night. And then he wants to do Sunset Boulevard or the Strip. Yep. See, I have no idea.
Do downtown in Vegas too. Like you got to do downtown. Don't just do the Strip.
Okay. Oh, no, that's not what I'm talking about. San Diego Zoo, we want to do that too. Anyway, there's a whole bunch of things on the to-do list, so we'll definitely hit them all up. And he wants to do a music festival over there, so we'll have to see what's going on. And yeah, anyway,
That's
those
exciting.
2 weeks will fly, I'm sure.
Oh, they will. They will. Yeah, you'll be turned around and home before you blink, I think. It's going to be amazing. On the go every day.
All right, what are we talking about today?
Okay, so I thought maybe today might be a really good look at and into competitions.
Yeah.
And we've touched on competing before and all the rest of it. I come from a very big competitive background in other sports through my life, but I've not ever competed in jiu-jitsu.
Yep.
Matt has competed a number of times. All three of my kids have competed. You have also competed in Jiu Jitsu. And both of us, you and I, have been to several competitions over the period of, multiple years. I have seen the best of humanity in competitions.
And
I have seen what I would regard as right down low with fucking cockroaches behaviour in competitions.
I agree so too. I've seen both too. And every spectrum in between.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. And fortunately for us, we've seen more of the good than the bad. But that's not to say that the bad doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So I really wanted to touch on today about, etiquette on the sidelines. I can't speak to being a competitor on the mats in jiu-jitsu, but I can speak to being, etiquette as a competitor in whatever you're doing.
Yep.
And so I just thought maybe we should look at a few experiences that we've come across, what we've seen, what we've heard, and not by who, not naming, shaming, not even discussing the competition we were at, but just talking about some of the things that we've seen and how it could have, would have, and maybe should have been held differently. And what are some of the things that parents should think about as they're sitting on the sidelines? So maybe if we start with the mums and dads kind of etiquette as a parent, one of the things I have noticed, every competition that I've ever been to for my kids or my husband, I've sat silent. I've never gone to the sidelines other than to encourage, come on, you've got this, you can do this.
Yep.
That
Positivity.
is it. Positivity.
Yes.
I've never had an opinion on whether or not they should throw an armbar, whether or not they should be in side control at this point, get into the guard, get out of the guard. I've never, ever commented on that.
Yep.
Not because I haven't had opinions at different points, but because their coach has been on the sideline. It's not my job to coach them if their coach is there. And in the flip side, I have seen so many times a coach, a mum, and a dad all screaming advice to the person competing, whether it be child, teen, or adult.
Yep.
And some of it conflicting.
Yes.
And I think, how the fuck is the person sitting on the mats who is already listening to 300 people scream for whatever's going on, how are they supposed to know who to zone into and to block out all the rest?
Yep. It's interesting because as a competitor, and I hear this from my adult competitors quite a bit, even at the last competition that we were in, there was a guy that was having his very first competition, and I was saying to him, look, I'll be on the sidelines, I'll be yelling out, advice or, things that I think you should be doing. And his friend who has competed, who I have also coached, said, don't worry about all the noise in the room. Your consciousness will zone in on Rachel's voice because it's a voice you're expecting and it's a voice that you know, and that's all you will hear. Like you sort of like the rest becomes white noise and you zone in on that one voice. So that does happen. So it's not so much like you could have different people yelling, but I guess if there are all three voices that you know very well, then you're going to be listening to all different things at the same time. I don't know. I'm not a huge competitor, and we had this discussion before we started recording. I don't consider myself a competitor. I have competed. In my book, there's a huge difference. I don't train for competition. I don't, drill with that in mind. I have done the odd, like 3. I've done 3 competitions in my life.
Well, that's 3 more than me in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, so I mean, look, I can't remember. The first one, Grant wasn't there. I just went out sort of pretty much on my own, did my own thing. I was a blue belt 1 stripe or something like that. My second competition, Grant was there. I zoned in on his voice. It was like, but if anyone knows Grant's voice, like you don't really hear much else in the room.
Yep.
It's very strong, very loud, very easy to listen to. He doesn't scream and shout and carry on like I've seen some coaches. He's very calm in his delivery, and he'll say, right arm underhook. And if you don't do your right arm underhook, he'll go right arm underhook, right arm underhook until you go, oh.
He's very polite too. He goes, right arm underhook, please.
Yes.
Please. There's always a please and a thank you.
Or sir.
He's very polite in his coaching. Absolutely.
It's very calm. It's very easy to hear. I've heard other coaches screaming at their competitors, and I'm like, I don't understand what you're saying. How are they going to understand what you're saying? Because they're just too heightened. But, and then my third match, which was just recently with the black belt match that I had, I'm pretty sure he was yelling stuff out, and I would hear the odd thing, but there was so much yelling in the room. Yeah. So, I felt like a bit of a superstar because we had like a whole bunch of people standing around watching, but at the same time, it sort of drowned his voice out just a little bit. So, my advice to spectators on the side is let the coach do the coaching, and you be the cheer squad. You be the cheerleaders. And if you're parents and it's kids, then that is even way more important.
And I want to touch on that for a second because, for me, I'm the mum on the sidelines, but whoever their coaches have been throughout time, those people have always been way further ahead in their jiu-jitsu journey than me, right? Whether it's J-Mac or it's Matt or it's Grant, they're all way further ahead, right? So that's, a lot of the reason why I also would never comment, because I'm not smart enough in this space to say anything that would ever go against anyone standing there coaching my kids in that regard. And every coach my kid has had standing on the sidelines has always done so with respect, has always done so with a focus to my child, not a gaslighting to the other child or, the other child's gym that they're coming from. So I've never ever even felt like I've needed to step in and override anything that's being said either. But you're a mum and you're a coach and you've competed in competition, so you know what it's like to be the bum on the mat. How are you, or historically, how were you when it was your sons competing?
Terrible.
And Grant coaching? Were you silent?
Oh, very.
Okay.
I'm always a million times more nervous when it's my own children on the mats than any of my students or myself. It's the worst thing in the world. I hate it. I get but I take it upon myself. Okay, I'm the one recording. So that's going to force my mouth shut, because otherwise all you hear is my commentary coming through the filming, right? So I don't want that to happen. There was one time that I got really cranky as a mum on the side.
Okay.
Right? And it was a match that Flynn had many years ago. I think it was states. It would have been state championships, I'm pretty sure. And he was up against a kid who was overly aggressive in non-jiu-jitsu ways. So one of the and we're talking like 9 and 10-year-olds, right? So really young. And that's another point we'll get to later, whether I believe in kids competing at all at a very young age, but we'll come back to that. So he was about 9, 10, 11, around that age. And this kid grabbed his ear and started twisting it. And then he was like hands and elbow into Flynn's face, grinding. He was inside Flynn's guard and he was getting frustrated. So he started doing that whole white belt thing where like you smash into their face. The ref actually stopped it at one point because Flynn was crying but not letting go. And he stopped it to check on Flynn. And then he restarted the match, which surprised me because usually when a ref stops a match,
there's some sort of a warning or a penalty or
no, it's more like, well, that's it. You've lost because I've had to stop the match for you. So I was like, the ref was amazing, absolutely amazing. So he checked on Flynn. I think he spoke to the other boy. And just said,
so he did speak to the other
because
kid.
this is kids division, right? And usually what I find in most competitions I've been to, almost every competition I've been to, the ref is really good and the refs look out for the kids. And if that means stopping a match early, because the kid's not tapping, or there's been plenty of times that my kids have been caught in a arm bar, for example, and it hasn't been on and they've been still defending, but the ref stopped it. I'm okay with that because I'd rather my kid go home and be able to train tomorrow than go home with a snapped elbow or a sore elbow. Anyway, this particular match, so this kid started grinding into Flynn's face, twisting his ear. The ref wasn't seeing it because it was on the other side of where he was standing. And I started yelling, and I've still got this footage, mind you. And I'm like, Ref, he's he's twisting his ear, and what's
Oh, you went full mama bear.
Oh, I've never done it before, and I've never done it since. But this kid fired me up in a way. Anyway, there was one point at which they disengaged from each other. The kids stepped back a few steps and then come in with a flying knee to Flynn's face. The only reason Flynn didn't get hit in the face is because it was drilled into him from day one to stand in base. So as he stood in base, this knee missed him by a couple of inches.
Yeah.
And Flynn was up on his feet and it restarted. And both Grant and I were like, did we just see what we think we just saw? Like, this kid actually flew a knee at Flynn's face. And then as we rewound the footage later on, we saw, it was a definitely on purpose thing that he was trying to do. He had no control, this kid. Yeah. That to me is a product of training.
Yes.
Of parenting.
Yeah.
Of coaching.
Yep.
Right? I don't know.
And especially at that age, because that's not a natural. I mean, even if the kid, I think kids can absolutely have a natural instinct to want to compete. And I also think that instinct can be instilled in kids as well. There are some kids that are just point blank, no thank you, not now, not ever, no need. But the instinct, the natural instinct to want to compete, to want to win in a child is never at any cost.
Yes.
That's learnt behaviour by mentors, by adults in that child's world.
I agree. Look, to full credit, after the match, Flynn won it, which is great. He became state champion at that particular tournament. The parents, he must have spoken to that child, and he did walk up and apologise for his behaviour during the match, which was very warranted because he had a lot to apologise for. Like the whole grabbing of the ear and twisting it, the whole smushing and elbows in, and actually like throwing almost elbows. Like, it wasn't just push. It was aggressive. Yeah. It was highly aggressive. But anyway, we were just really proud of Flynn that he persevered, because I wouldn't have been shocked had he gone, I don't want to keep going. When the ref stopped it and said, are you okay to keep going? Take a breath. Flynn's like, yeah, I'll keep going. Yeah. As a parent watching, I was like, no, it's okay if you want to stop this. Yeah. This is not what we signed up for.
This is just a jiu-jitsu competition.
That's right. And if that kid wins that medal, I don't care. Yeah. What I've seen on the flip side, though, as a coach going to many competitions, is that the parents do care. Yeah. And case in point was one that I saw recently, and it goes back to what age kids should be competing. These kids were no more than like 5 years old. And one of the kids was literally sobbing for the entire 3 minutes of the match. Sobbing.
Not wanting to be there?
Not wanting to, I don't know, just sobbing. And the parents were screaming from the sidelines, don't you give up, don't you quit, don't, and the coach, full credit to him, he was like, you're okay, just breathe. Like, he was coaching really good, but the parents were screaming over the top of it, don't you quit, don't you give up. And I'm just like, Grant and I looked at each other and we were just like, that's not right. I just didn't feel like that was
not at that age either. Like,
they were tiny. Like, I'm saying, I don't reckon past 5, maybe 6 years old, but they were in that 4 to 6 year old range.
I don't know what age our kids started competing. It's years and years. They were little. And Willow on comp day, she's like me. If she gets frustrated, anxious or anything, tears come. And Scarlett, bless her little cotton socks, Scarlett would be in a roll, and she's also like me. If she's frustrated, tears will come. We had to teach people that when they're rolling with Scarlett, if they see her crying and she's not saying anything, she's not going, ow, 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 then please just ignore the tears. Don't stop. Because all too often people would stop and go, oh, are you okay? And she'd be like, yeah, what did you stop for? I'm trying to figure something out. And so even on comp days when they were very little, there would be tears of anxiety, or there would be tears of, frustration, or after a loss, there would be tears of sadness. in the going into the comp, we would always say to the likes of Willow, we get it. We understand that you're anxious. We understand that you're nervous and all the rest of it, but you're going to get out there anyway. And whilst BJJ or Jiu Jitsu is mandatory for our girls, competing is not mandatory. And so before we sign them up to any competition, they've got to want to do it. But if they say yes to it 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month before comp, then they're doing comp on day. I don't care where their headspace is with that. Obviously, there's a caveat to that. I'm not going to push my kids over the edge to get on the mats, but I will sternly go, you asked for
You will
this.
encourage and say, this is your choice.
That's it.
Now
Yep.
we got to follow through with
That's
our choice.
right. Yeah. But not to the point of a 5-year-old, don't you dare give up, don't you do that.
It was, we thought, aggressive.
Yeah.
Now, you know, I didn't see the aftermath. I didn't see any of that. We were talking to one of our students the other night who was at that same competition, and he worked the tables. And he was saying, you know, he saw all kinds of things happen on the day. And I think it would open your eyes if you were sitting on a table and seeing match after match in front of you and how different people deal with stuff. But he said there was a little boy who was really nervous and crying before his match. And the dad was like, come on, mate, you can do it. And he was like really encouraging. And this little boy's like walked onto the mat and shook the ref's hand. He's literally shaking, shook the kid's hand and got absolutely smashed.
Yep.
Right. So it was over and done with, and the other kid was like, rah, 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 and had him tied up and armbarred in like 10 seconds or something like that. The kid's been upset. He's walked off, and the dad's been like, mate, I'm so proud of you. You did so good. That was awesome. You got out there, and I know you were nervous, but you did it anyway. And, you know,
Perfect response.
being a cheerleader.
Yep.
I say to my parents in a welcome letter, your number one job is to be your kid's cheerleader. Leave the coaching to the coaches.
Yep.
Under no circumstances, we're talking training now, under no circumstances are you to sit on the bleachers and yell out to your child or coach your child. You sit there and you smile and you enjoy and you tell them how wonderful you think they trained, even if they train like crap. Because how you react to your child is how they're going to perceive jiu-jitsu. Yep. And so if they step off the mats and they're as a parent, you're going, oh, you know, you could have just done so much. But I've heard it. I've heard parents approach their kids like this. I'm so disappointed in how you trained today. I think you could have done a much better job.
Oh, I've heard that on a competition.
Well, I'm saying it's at both, right?
Yeah.
These are parents everywhere. Yeah. Then the kid's like, oh, well, jiu-jitsu sucks.
Yeah.
Because the parent will never suck.
So
doesn't matter how bad your parent is.
No, that's exactly
kids
right.
will always put their parents in the best light. It can't be the parents that are not great parents. It must be the thing that I'm doing.
Yep.
So therefore, it puts that thing in a negative light. And parents, I've seen make or break jiu-jitsu for their kids just on how they relate to their kids about it.
Yeah, I agree. And, you know, like I said, I'd seen that in a competition where the kid had come off the mats and they had lost. It wasn't against any of my kids. It was just, you know, another two kids fighting. And as the kid came off, the kid was already beating himself up enough for the loss. And the mum kind of swung around and, you know, was hugging the kid but just kind of turned around and went, oh, well, there's more training to be done, isn't there? You didn't train hard enough leading into this one. You should have won that. I'm like, well, that does two things right now. That really takes away from the kid who did win on the day because that kid was better on the day. It doesn't matter what your kid was like in the gym 2 weeks before the competition. What matters is how they performed on the day.
Yeah.
The other kid won. Yeah. On the day, that kid was better. So let's not diminish that by saying you should have won. Number two, like, allow the kid the sense of loss. Allow the kid to be disappointed because disappointment is something they're going to have to endure through life. It will happen. Don't allow them to stay there too long, but don't hold them there with a fucking gun to their head. And that's what I felt like this mum did. Like, you should have won that. You need to do better.
And there's ways to even say that, but with kindness.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So great, let's work on this area.
And maybe not even saying it right then. Maybe that's a discussion for a little bit later or a day later or next time in the gym. Hey, let's go through the comp on the weekend. How do you feel you went? Asking the questions, not dictating to the child. is a huge thing.
I remember, and case in point, back to when Flynn was competing a lot when he was a little bit younger, he got caught in arm bars and the ref stopped it. And we went away and we're like, okay, let's work on arm bar defense. So he worked for 6 weeks into the lead up of this next competition on armbar defense. And he was defending, he was actively defending, not just laying there letting the kid, do you know what I mean? Like there's a difference. He was actively defending. He was still coming up on it when the ref stopped it. And he was disappointed because he was like, I felt like it wasn't on, and I felt like I was still defending and I was actively defending. And Grant's response was, oh, well, you know, it's a bummer. It sucks sometimes, but we're not going to go argue with the ref about it. And there's our next point, arguing with the ref.
Yeah. Oh, look, man. And that I've seen a lot of yelling at refs for decisions, and I've seen people sit on a mat and refuse to move for bad decisions. I just think...
In protest. If you know, you know.
Yeah. I think there is a way to handle things.
Yes.
And I'll be honest, I've seen one where all of the people on our team were on the sideline telling the competitor to sit. Sit down, do not move. That was a filthy wrong call. And once the video was played back and once the referee in and the corner and the side, once they all looked at it and reviewed, they all had to concede. It was a very bad call and it had to be reset, and the points were awarded the other way, and our competitor actually took the match based on that. So I'm not saying that there is never a case for it, but I think that referees have got a hard enough job. And I'm not saying every referee is a good referee by any stretch, but I think if you're assuming that there is a bad call, everybody has a video, everybody has a camera, you know, there's ways that you can talk to people to get some attention, or there's ways that you can come across without the initial, immediate hurling of abuse. And I know emotions are high, right? I get that and I understand that. But I don't know. I feel like there is such an aggressiveness that comes with that. And refs, you know, their immediate response is,
yep,
too bad.
Speak to the hand.
That's right.
Look, we have a different approach, and I certainly, and I take my lead here from Grant because he's so experienced as a coach at competitions and things like that. I've never seen him argue with a ref ever once.
Yeah.
I've seen him ask a question.
Yeah.
Can you explain to me where those points landed in the other person's favour?
Yeah.
And I don't think he's ever turned a ref's opinion around or even tried, because it's been like, you know what? Sometimes I remember once I was coaching a competitor, and it wasn't the ref. The ref awarded the points. It was the table person gave it to the wrong person.
Oh, yeah.
And then that person's up 3 points.
Yeah.
You know, as soon as you see points on another person, it starts to get in your head and stuff. And then my competitor started to make poorer choices because of that he was down, you know, or hang on, why didn't those 3 points go to me? And they get in their own head. And so, like, just forget about the points. Just try and submit.
Yeah.
One thing that I always think, though, don't leave it in the hands of the ref.
Yeah.
If you're going to leave it in the hands of the ref, they're going to make bad decisions sometimes. We see it at the highest levels. How many times have you watched this UFC fight?
Yeah, and gone, what the fuck?
in your opinion, as the pleb at home sitting on your lounge, you're going, hang on, I'm pretty sure that was the wrong call. Like, and you know, you can see the coaches and the players all shaking their head like, what? I should have won that round. And everyone at home's going, and even the commentators sometimes will go, hang on, that doesn't seem right. It should have been the other, you know. Don't leave it in the hands of the ref. Because sometimes the ref or the judges or the table people get it wrong sometimes. But at the end of the day, does it really matter that much?
I think that's probably the next part of this that I want to transition into. And, you know, there is a difference. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and we were talking about some competitions that were coming up. And I made reference and went, oh, do you reckon such and such will compete, blah, blah, blah. And it was really interesting, the response, because the person that I was asking about has competed at a pretty high level, right, nationally and internationally. And so the response back was, maybe not at this level. This is kind of like, you've done this to death kind of level, and then this person might look for a higher grade. I wonder if we just overall get too passionate about every single competition that we've ever touched on, kind of thing, as opposed to looking at as a journey as we build through. Like, honestly, does a 12-year-old winning a local competition in the scheme of world events of that 12-year-old's lifespan, is it really going to matter?
No. And does anyone ever remember it? No.
No.
But here's what competition does do. The lead up to the competition teaches the person, child or adult, discipline. Mm-hmm. I'm going to focus on my training. I'm going to dial in my nutrition. I'm going to make sure that I'm on weight. Mm-hmm. I'm going to, train with more intensity and with more focus. I'm going to listen more in class. Mm-hmm. I'm going to, all these things that have really positive effects on their development, their discipline, their self-improvement.
Their jiu-jitsu, yeah.
Right, and their jiu-jitsu, right? But all these other things combined as well. In that 6 weeks leading up to competition, they're striving towards something. Mm-hmm. Their jiu-jitsu gets so much better. Their discipline, they're this, they're that, they're everything else. It improves them so much more than what they would probably improve if they didn't have that goal. Mm-hmm. I understand you've worked 6 weeks towards this thing. You want the ref to make a right decision. You want to go out there and do a really good performance. You want coaches that are paying you attention and looking all the right, things. Even coaches get it wrong sometimes. Yep. I remember, case in point, we had a student one day and we were coaching something from the side and didn't see, because of the angle, that the other person had a hand in the collar.
Oh, yeah.
We couldn't see it. It was all turtled up. It was all, there was no visual for that to happen. So giving the advice of move one way was the right advice had that hand not been in the collar, but because it was in the collar, put the guy deeper into the choke. Now, you can sit on the sidelines if you're around the corner and on the other side of the mat and go, oh, you got a bum steer from your coach. Well, no, because you're actually in it.
Yeah.
You can feel it.
Yeah.
Right? Don't just blindly follow. Know that maybe you're caught in a choke and you need to, hang on, this doesn't make sense. If I go, oh, that feels tight, I'm not going to keep going. Turn the other way.
I think that's a really important point. Don't blindly follow. I heard that once in my career from a manager I was working for, and we'd done some things wrong, and he's like, Kaz, you cannot blindly follow. Like if you see, think, feel something different, always have the courage to step up and say. In being on the mats, it's the competitor that is seeing, feeling all.
That's right.
And I would hope that the coaches on the sideline, like I know it is the case for you and Grant, but if a competitor comes off the mat, I've seen all too often a coach not yelling but really aggressively like, why didn't you do this? And I told you to do that. And, rah, 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 rah. And the competitor just going, yep, okay. They've got to be able to say, yeah, coach, I heard that, but I couldn't do it because of this.
Yeah.
And this is why I didn't follow. The minute I'm not following, maybe you need to reassess that or trust that I couldn't somewhere in there. But just have the ability to listen to the student as they come off the mats too. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the time I don't see that. A lot of the time I see, especially if it's a very, very passionate coach that's on the sidelines, do this, why are you doing this? And the minute that student comes off the mats that the coach is just berating them almost to a point of no return. And
just walking off in disgust. I've seen that.
Oh, yeah. So I don't get that
I've seen a coach sit down, white belt match, white belt does poorly and loses. The coach halfway through the match just starts scrolling their Instagram, and then when they lose, ultimately stands up and walks away without even looking at their student.
Yeah, see, you're below human at that point, right? You must feel below human from the coach, and students are paying these people for their time. Like, this isn't.
Let's rewind on that. So, well, maybe. For us at Iconic, we go down there not to every competition. But you will find most coaches who are appearing at competitions, they're doing that on their own time.
Yeah.
Like we just said, like last Sunday, that's usually our day off. But because we had a whole team, we went down there and supported because we want success for our team.
Yeah.
And we want success for our competitors. But to me, like from my viewpoint, it's extra. It's above and beyond. You know, I know plenty of times back, and you see it more and more now, but plenty of times back in the day, there was no coaches coming along to competitions.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. You would sign up for a competition and you would go. And you might have a teammate or two that may go too, but your coaches weren't there.
Yeah, so it's amazing. We've been in, like, Matt's been doing this 11 years, and at least for the last 11 years, every competition we've ever been, it's always been a team.
Yeah.
It's been a team going,
Yeah.
but there's always been senior belts
Yeah.
And the owners of the gym that have been there and present and part of it
Yeah.
for those reasons, right? For success.
Yeah.
But it's success of the gym as well as success
Absolutely.
of the individuals too,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
there's benefits for both sides.
Yeah. I wouldn't put a monetary expectation on it unless you're charging, saying I will come to comp, but it's going to cost you like $20 on the day or, whatever.
Yeah.
Don't expect that, this is an expectation. I pay you, so therefore you come and support. I don't know that I'd be
No,
okay.
I didn't. Sorry, no, I didn't mean it in that regard.
Yeah.
I just meant like as their student.
Yeah.
Their student pays to be the student.
Yeah.
And in that overall arching program, like, we pay to be students when we come to Iconic. You guys respect that process because without students, you don't exist.
Absolutely.
Okay?
Yeah.
So you respect that component. You always say your students are the most important part of the business process.
Yeah.
You treat your students accordingly.
Yes.
I have seen a lot of times where coaches are not treating these people accordingly. And I think that's a detriment to the student, but I also think it's a detriment to the gym as well.
Yeah.
And that's where I feel sad. I don't think we have enough competitors in this country as it is, because a lot of the time, we'll put names in for competitions, whether it's at adult level or kids level, and they're scrambling to find people as competitors in this process as well. So we need to make it a more positive experience. We want more family involvement in competitions in Australia for the sport side of this to grow. And I'm not seeing that at the moment. And in fact, I would even go as far to say that from our kids' perspective, I've seen a decline.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know whether or not that's just because they're girls and girls kind of dip out of this sport.
I was going to say, I'd say it's the age that bracket that they're heading into. And I'd say give it a couple of years. Willow, once she turns 16, suddenly the whole world will open up for her because she'll suddenly be up against blue belt females.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of those. But yeah, in that sort of 12 to 15 age bracket for girls, it's going to be harder. And I think back when my boys were competing, they used to combine the sexes, so boys and girls were always on the mats together. Now, that's really fine up until a point, but up until like that 12, 13, then it becomes a little bit unfair. But I was seeing matches early on between like 14 and 15-year-old girls up against 14 and 15-year-old boys. I think they've sort of done away with that now, in Australia anyway. I don't see too many combined.
No, I don't know that we've ever been to one that's combined.
There you go. Yeah. So. I know Flynn and Connor used to fight little girls when they were little.
That sounds funny.
I know. Well, sorry, I shouldn't say. There's a whole thing of like Jiu Jitsu is not a fight, it's a match. Yeah. So they used to have matches with like little girls and
but
stuff.
I knew what you meant.
Yeah, I know. It's just language let me down. Let's talk about the actual thing itself. So you walk up to the mat and you
as a competitor,
take off your shoes. I think most etiquette is to bow to
Yep.
step onto the mat. You know, I always see that. And I always do that, even though we don't bow onto our mats at Iconic. When I'm in someone else's gym or when I'm onto a competition mat, I'll usually bow to step onto the mat.
Yeah.
Shake the ref's hand.
Yep.
Shake your opponent's hand.
Yep,
and then
always.
the ref will go fight or
Yep.
start or whatever
Yep.
they say. So that's your etiquette. When you lose, don't punch the mat and swear and carry on like a pork chop.
Or walk off without shaking your competitor's hand or the ref's hand. To say
Seen that
thank you.
happen before.
Yeah, so have I
it just
heaps.
makes you look like an absolute douchebag.
Yeah, like a fucktard.
Oh, there it is. I knew it was coming.
Had to get in at least one.
I know. So accept the fact that, you know, it's someone's going to win
Yep.
and someone's going to lose.
That's right.
Very rarely have I ever seen a draw. I think I've maybe seen one ever.
Yeah, I don't remember ever seeing a draw.
And usually if it's a draw on points, then it will come down to ref's decision.
Yep.
Don't leave it up to the refs.
Yeah, that's it. That's right. And I've only ever seen it come down to refs' decisions. I've
Yeah.
never seen it, you know, both take the win.
Yep.
But I think that's really important. Like I don't ever remember ever seeing anybody get on and not follow that etiquette. A lot I've seen come off and not shake their opponent's hand.
Yep.
Component. I don't even know what the fuck that is. Opponent's hand. I've also seen this kind of like, hang on, let me move this out of the way. Like, yeah, whatever.
Oh, like
And go off.
Yeah.
It's like, no, go back, look the person in the eye,
And
shake
thank
their hand
them.
and say thanks for the opportunity.
That's right. They turned up today.
Yeah.
You could have been left without a match at all.
Yeah, you could have got a plastic medal, you know, for just showing up. Yay for you, hooray.
They turned up, they stood on the mats, they engaged with you, they
Yep.
were better in that moment, or
That's
maybe the ref didn't see something, or maybe the table person stuffed up. But at the end of the day, you got the experience of stepping onto the mat for a competition. Thank the person in front of you.
And you know what else? You got the experience of losing the match. And I don't think that's a bad experience to endure and learn from.
The matches that some of our students learn, well, here's the thing. When you win a match, you've done everything almost right in that moment to win the match. Now, not saying that you did everything right,
I know.
but you come away going, I won. I don't need to analyze that. When you lose, it gives you something to think about and
That's right.
analyze and learn from. So actually, you probably get more out of losing a match than you do sometimes out of winning
That's
it.
That's what we say to kids. It's never, we call it one of two things. So you either win or you learn. If you take a loss in the match, what did you learn? Where do you need to improve? What is it about it? And it's not just the physical side either. There is such a mental component to competing. You know, I always remember in Australia we have SAS, right, which is the pinnacle of the Defence Force in Army. And Matt he got shortlisted, and that's a hard enough grueling process to go through. And then he was shipped off to Perth to go and do the SAS component. So he had 12 weeks of preparation to get ready. When he came back and after not getting through, his words on the day when he landed back home was, I prepared physically enough. I didn't prepare mentally enough. And, you know, I have said to my kids all the way through in any competition, there is both sides of the coin that are equally as important. It's how is your mindset going into this through your training? And you touched on a few things before. You said, you know, in that 6 weeks leading up, they're looking at nutrition, they're looking at their training, they're looking at their technique, they're looking at all these kind of things. All these things take mindset. You have to be mindful of what you're eating to monitor your nutrition. You have to be mindful of your sleep to be able to get into better sleep patterns moving into it, to re-energize, to rehydrate, to look at technical
To be able to get back the next
nuances.
day and train again.
To be able to get back next day and train again, absolutely. And so mindset is such a crucial point. I never hear parents of teenagers talking, you know, when we're at competition and stuff like that. And I'm such a sticky beak, so I'm listening all the time to what people are saying. You know, if my kids come off the mat from a loss, I want them to sit in it for a minute. I want them to feel that. I want them to understand mentally what that disappointment feels like. because I want them to fight against it moving forward. And going back on the mats the next day will require that analysis of that disappointment. Why did I lose? Where did I get it wrong? Acceptance of, were they just better than me on the day? Where do I need to improve? Or did I fuck it up somehow and do something that I shouldn't have done, etc.? All of that is a mind process. It's not just, can I armbar my, I'm going to say component again. Can I armbar my opponent? So where does mindset sit with you? And did you have those conversations with your kids when they were competing? And what was your, and I'm asking a lot of questions here, what was your mindset like in that last black belt comp?
There's so many questions there. I don't know where
right?
to start.
Start with yours.
Okay.
What was your mindset like going into and beyond?
My mindset was I had no preparation.
Yeah,
Let's
I
remember that. So I only signed up for the week before. I saw the match was there. I saw a black belt female in my weight category with no component.
No component. Yay!
With no opponent.
I'm so influential.
So I've gone, oh, great, here's an opportunity. So I saw it as an opportunity and I was really excited about it. So that was cool. But then I kind of came down a little bit crook on that morning and I didn't realize I was crook until the next day because then I was really crook. I just thought I was a bit flat that day and I lost my voice so I couldn't talk. So it was hilarious. Anyway, my mindset going in was just what a great experience, what a great opportunity. I think as a black belt female master with another black belt female master, I wasn't scared of injury. I knew that we would look after each other. Neither of us wanted to go home injured. So that was comforting, but also as a black belt, like trusting her that she wasn't going to just smash me, but also trusting me and my ability that, you know what, I've been doing this for like 12, 13 years. I do have some skill in being able to look after myself. So that knowledge helped me not be scared. So without fear, I was able to just enjoy. And I thoroughly enjoyed it.
You did. You lit up like a Christmas tree.
I was. The whole time I was smiling. I was happy. She was smiling. She was lovely. You know, it's really easy to sit back and go, this was the experience because this was my mindset. But I have to give full credit to Alana because she was so friendly. She walked into the basketball stadium, came up to me hours before our match and gave me this huge hug and was like, we're competing today. and you know, doing that helped ease any, you know, possible nerves that I might have had as well.
That should be mandatory for kids.
Making friends?
Yeah, absolutely. I honestly think, like, just watching you light up right now about that journey going into it, like, imagine if all kids got to experience that before they got on the mats.
They'd just be friends.
Yeah. That's like you were reminding me of Addie right then when you were doing it. Sorry, keep going.
Look, well, that's pretty much it. So that's how my mindset was. And I lost both matches. And it gave me so much to work with. So I was really happy. Like I won.
You are the epitome of glass half full.
Yeah.
You are absolutely the epitome. On everything I know you to touch, do, involve yourself in, you are the epitome of glass half full.
I'm not always but that's probably more private thinking. And maybe Grant sees a little bit of that too when I'm like get a bit down on myself or whatever, and he's got to then pep me up, and he does a great job of that as well. You know, from everything I'm told, he was really nervous for my match, or not nervous maybe, but he was like on the sidelines. Like, I think he said to one of the students who told me weeks later that he was like, with all my other students, I'm fine, but that's my wife out there, you know.
He was saying that, absolutely.
Yeah, so, you know, when it's your own, it's different. And back to your other question, what's my mindset when I see my kids? I'm freaking because I don't want them to get hurt. That's the biggest thing, because you can't always control someone else's behavior. You know, and I've seen so many people that have had a submission and it could have just been on, but instead of just putting it on, they rip through it and damage their opponent. And I'm just like, it doesn't have to be that. But, you know, again, that comes from culture in a gym and how you treat people and how you train and what your coach's expectations are and who you are as a person and, you know, all of this stuff. But a lot of culture rubs off onto you students.
Yeah.
You know, and I've seen students that have started with us, not compete, but who they were on our mats, move to a different gym and then compete. And I've turned and looked at my husband and gone, and the way they handled their loss, like refusing to shake hand, refusing to look at the person, swear, carry on, storm off the mat. I looked at my husband and I went, oh, thank God they're not our student anymore.
Yeah.
There's no way my students would behave like that. If I saw that,
yeah,
they would be getting us like spoken to by Grant and I and going, get back out there and show that person some goddamn respect.
I know there had been a couple of times where Scarlett has been in comp and she's very much like me, more so than the other two in regards of when we lose, that's a struggle for us. Mm-hmm. Not that we don't respect the fact that the other person was better on the day. It's just that our mindset is don't go there to lose. And I know that's probably the same for everybody. We probably put a real high expectation on ourselves. Like that's just a part of our DNA and who we are. And I know on the couple of instances where Scarlett has taken a loss, everything about her persona right in that minute drops. So her eyes drop, her head, her shoulders drop, everything. And she'll go over and kind of shake the person's hand. She knows it's the right thing to do to shake their hand, but because she's so disappointed in herself, that's where her mindset is. And we've actually had to teach her because the other person doesn't realise that that's just Scarlett in that moment beating herself up, not trying to be disrespectful to the person who won on the day. And we've had to work with her and teach her that you're allowed to go into that space, but 2 minutes after you come off the mat. Not in that moment, allow that person the graces of having the win and be happy for them, even if you have to fake it till you make it until you get off the mat, and then you can be disappointed.
Look, it's hard. It's really hard for kids to understand all that and to get all that. And my expectations aren't on kids that they have to be all like, thanks for the match with a big smile until they walk off and then they can cry. You know, we've had kids that cry when they, you know, my kids have probably gotten teary at some point when they were littler. And shake the kid's hand and walk off, or, you know, give, like, they have a hug. You know, kids often hug, which is really cute and lovely. Kids, boys, girls will often, you know, shake and have a like bro hug or whatever, and then walk off the mat and then and it sort of hits them at that point. Right. I'm talking about a grown adult who refused to look, went and put his hand up to say, don't even come near me, and storm off the mat. That's what I'm talking about.
And they should know better, but I like the fact that I will work with my kids to learn the difference as kids.
Yeah.
Because they will take 100%. It into adulthood.
Absolutely.
You know, petulant adults were usually petulant children as well.
So losing with etiquette, with grace. You know, there's a thing that I heard ages ago, and I often say it when we put posts up after competition, and I'll say that, I'm so proud of our competitors who both won with humility and lost with grace.
Yes.
And both are equally important. The flip side, so that you've got losing and you've got tantrum throwing and all of that. I think almost as what is worse or equally as bad is when the person wins and they rip open their gi and they roar, and they're just like, I'm the king of the world, and their team's screaming and they're just like running around. Like, what a dick.
Do you know what I love though? And I have seen this a couple of times, is those fucktards doing exactly that and then getting their ass handed to them in their next match. And then in the next match after that, and then all of a sudden they're bronze on the podium. Like, hey, where's your gi throwing now?
Oh, just win with humility.
Yep.
Again.
Yeah, when you're at the top of your game, stay humble.
Maybe if it's worlds, then rip your gi open and be super excited. But we're not talking about a Sunday afternoon comp down at your local basketball stadium.
Basketball stadiums. And that's, look, I think they're all, there's obviously levels of competition between locals, regional, state, nationals,
And then you got your super
globals
fights and all that.
super fights and all the rest of it. And I get it, and I get for kids the win is exciting. I get for teenagers, even young adults, that it might be their first time and all the rest of it. The excitement I don't ever want to see diminished. I don't ever want to see it drop down. But I also think that there needs to be that sense of humility at the top, and then there needs to be that sense of it's okay. You know, it's okay to feel the loss at the bottom. Whether that's a small local competition, whether that's a bigger. I think my bigger concern at the moment, and certainly at the more local levels, is how the parents and the gym people, the gym members so question. If I'm standing on the sidelines and I'm screaming to my competitor, don't worry, all they've got is this, or don't worry about them because they're just going to do this, or just make sure you smush their face into the ground, is that gaslighting the other person?
I've been subject to that. So in one of my matches, my second competition, I have this sneaky cross-collar choke.
I do. I've seen the smile many a time.
So I have a cross-collar choke where I put one hand in the collar and then I pull them down and I'm holding the back of the net. I'm sort of like encouraging them into the bait, right? So I was doing this with my competitor and my opponent, and her coach started yelling out, "Don't worry, she's just stalling." Which is where I got the idea to yell out at Grant's match the exact same thing, right? So I'm guilty of it too. Don't worry, she's just stalling. She's got nothing. And I just stopped. I still have my hand in the collar.
Yeah.
I just stopped and I looked over my head straight at him. And he started to giggle. And he goes, "Oh, sorry."
So he knew.
I was like this faceless, nameless competitor.
Yep.
Until I looked him straight in the eye and I went, "I'm a person too, damn it." And he's like, "Oh, sorry." And then he shut up.
So is there levels then? Because you just said before that you were guilty of it too.
Yeah, so I said it at Grant's competition at Subversion. So that's what we were talking about when Matt said it. One of the competitions, someone's yelled out, "Don't worry, Grant, he's just stalling." And Grant's like, "No, he's trying to footlock me." What I was doing two things there. I was trying, because those things are different. They're not points based. Mm-hmm. So at the end of the match, the judges will decide on who has been more aggressive, who had more closer submissions. And I know Grant, and I know that although that guy had his arm around Grant's leg or Grant's ankle, he's got the most flexible ankles you will ever know. And he very rarely gets footlocked because he's got a lot of flexibility in those ankles and he's got excellent defense. Me being me on the night in my moment with a few ginger beers under my sleeve, thought it'd be a really good thing to try and sway the judges a little by saying, "I know he's got nothing on you."
Yeah.
He's just stalling.
Stalling
and he
at
was
the time.
just holding on. Like there was no active thing beyond that. Grant being Grant and the endless entertainer he is, yelled out, "No, he's trying to footlock me." I'm like, "Shh, don't say that. Just say, yeah, I know, he's got nothing." Like that was the whole point. I'm giving you something to work with here. Anyway, it didn't work and now I have a reputation.
So do you think there's a line between being able to talk to your competitor about what the other person does or does not have, is or isn't doing? Is there a line in the sand where it's good camaraderie, good combative kind of talk versus gaslighting?
Look, I think after a full day of competition, we have to entertain ourselves as well as coaches. Some of the best matches I've seen is when Grant is coaching one of our students and a close friend owner of an academy
Oh,
is
yeah,
coaching
yeah.
their student. And both coaches are coaching their students, but at the same time ribbing their students and each other and their opponents. So it's like this four-way battle going on, and usually ends up in both the students having a giggle halfway through the match, going, "What the hell's going on with our coaches?"
That's fun, right? That's awesome.
It kind of brings enjoyment.
Yeah,
into
that's
it.
right.
Yeah.
And I think also would relax the competitors too and take a lot of the stress away, which is awesome. I'm all for that. I don't like it when you've got coaches and, other members on the sideline, and probably more so with kids or with white belts who are very new to the environment, irrelevant of age, being told to, in some description or another, hurt the other person.
That's never acceptable.
Yeah.
We had a parent once, no longer training with us, but their child was in a competition, got the little boy's back, had the arm around their neck, and he lost all decorum in the moment and just screamed out, "Rip his head off," or something like that, or choke him out, and just yelled it so loud. And we've like gone, "Shh, you can't say that. Like, calm down. These are 6-year-olds." And God love him, he's actually checked himself, went, "Oh, sorry," just got overexcited in the moment.
Which is good. Like, thank you for checking yourself, because that poor kid.
I know.
Rip his head off.
So look, I mean, as you said before, and I think rightly so, emotions are high in these moments. The competitors are nervous.
Yeah.
Probably the parents or the friends or the wives or the boyfriends or whatever on the sidelines, they're nervous.
Yeah.
So everyone's like in a heightened state, and sometimes things come out that probably shouldn't. Yes, when kids are involved, when it's look, you know what? When it's adults, I really don't care. Whatever. If you're going to let someone get in your head and that's going to ruin the match for you, maybe check your head a little bit more on it. Even as white belts or whatever, like just ignore the noise.
I just say more so from white belt perspective, because they're still learning.
They're still learning,
in that
of
process,
course.
and
But
it should be more about their jiu-jitsu than what they're doing to
They
other
don't have
people.
jiu-jitsu. It's fighting. It's a red hot mess. 2 cats in a blender. It's often very entertaining. But kids, don't be yelling stuff out like that. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Let the kids have fun. It should be fun. I talked earlier about I don't think that 4 to 8-year-olds I don't know that I'm still deciding, and I'm still having conversations with Grant about it, and we were talking about this the other day, but should 4-year-olds even be competing?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, they look so cute.
Yeah, they are adorable. Or here's an idea.
Entertainment only.
Should 4-year-olds to 6-year-olds be putting on submissions? Or should it just be purely point-based and positional? There's an idea too, because I just think if you're stuck under mount and you get 3 points on you and then it starts again and then the referee starts it, you get your 3 points, okay, restart. Or you know what? Oh, I don't even know. I don't even know how I would do it. I'm not a promoter or, a ref. But I just don't know that kids are so different levels at that age. Like my kids that I'm teaching jiu-jitsu to at 4 and 6 years old, we're teaching them about bully-proof stuff. We're teaching them about using their words. We're teaching them the Gracie games where it's like get on top, stay on top, spider kids, spider swim, get the back, catch the crocodile, all these games that we play. I'm teaching them 4 submissions. That's it. Until they get to 9-year-olds, they don't learn more submissions than an armbar, a rear naked choke, a cross collar choke, and an Americana. So they're the 4 that I teach because that's all little kids need.
Have you ever had a 4 to 6-year-old compete?
Yeah, I think we have.
Okay.
It was hilarious. Let me tell you the story on that. So he's super cute, and he's actually our first student that walked through. No, not the very first one that walked through the door, but he came on the first night. Mm-hmm. He's the only student we have that started on night 1 and he's still with us to this day. 9.5, almost 10 years. No, almost 9 years later. He was probably about 5. And he had a match and it was on white mats and his tooth fell out. And halfway through the match, he went, "Stop!" And the ref's like, "Stop!" And he looks at the ref. He goes, "My tooth fell out." So then the ref, the other kid, and him were on hands and knees looking for this tooth. They found the tooth, and this kid's super cute. Like,
that's important though. The tooth
cute.
fairy had to come.
I know. So we found the tooth.
Yep.
It got given to Mum.
Yep.
And then the referee started the fight. The match. Stop calling it a fight, Rachel.
the match.
It's a match,
Yeah.
which was awesome because the ref could have gone because the kid stopped it and said stop.
Yeah.
That was the end of
Right.
it. But he was like, "No, these guys are too cute. We're going to restart." And that's what you need as refs with kids competition.
100%.
You need
Yeah.
really good refs.
That's a good ref.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think anything kind of, I even watch Addie now as an 11-year-old. She'll be 12 this year. And she still has that mentality going into a competition, I'm here. If I win, it's a bonus. If I don't, as long as I get a friend.
Yep.
I love that mentality about her. Equally, though, I love the kill or be killed mentality that Scarlett has just in her natural composition.
Yep.
She is her mother's daughter, and I am, this is another reason why I stay silent on the sidelines, because I know I would probably end up being one of those fucktards yelling out stupid stuff.
You'd be exported from
I
this.
would be expelled. Absolutely. I'd be kicked my ass to the curb because I think speak.
Yeah.
And at that point, I'm in there and I'm like, kill him. No, get out. And so I have never had an opinion. I've been the one recording, and I do the same thing. I record so I know to stay silent.
Yeah.
Whether it's I'm recording my kids or anybody else's on the day.
Remind me to show you the footage of Flynn's match.
I've
got it.
That'd be hilarious.
And you hear me going, "What the yelling at the ref."
Yeah, we're going to have to put that up for the socials leading into this episode.
Private, but I will show you.
So I think, as parents with kids, irrelevant of whether they're 4, 12, 15 or 17, maybe let the coaches coach.
Oh, definitely let the coaches coach.
And
unless the coaches aren't there,
yeah, absolutely.
then feel free to step in. But if you don't train, then your coaching should just be, remember what coach said, get on top and stay on top.
Or encouragement of, you've got this. Or I think one of the things that Matt used to, like if nobody was there and Matt was there, if one of the coaches couldn't get around or whatever, the most helpful thing I could do is yell out the time to him.
Yeah.
You've got 3 minutes left. You've got, or you're 6 points here or you're 6 points down or you're 2 points up, whatever the case may be.
Is that when you're coaching Matt?
I would never say I'm coaching Matt. I have never coached Matt a day in my life. It's if I'm on the side of the mat.
And he's got no one else.
And
Grant's the same.
That's all I will do.
He will say the same to me. If he's got, and he doesn't need a coach. He knows his game plan, like probably better than anyone else, of course. And he's in it, feeling it, this, that, everything else. I think he'll listen to his brother if his brother sort of suggests something from the sidelines. But if no one's there but me, he just asks me to tell him points and time.
Yep.
Just tell me how much time's left, and that way I know what I'm working with.
I'm at.
So that's experience level.
I
competitors
would,
though.
And I'm very, very, I'm probably overly aware of my need to shut up for anyone's comp.
Something that sort of started happening more and more at competitions that I'm really fond of. And again, it goes back to etiquette, and it might be our last point because I'm really mindful of time, is that at the end of a match, people will shake each other's hands, say thank you, shake the ref's hand, say thank you, and then the other competitor will come over to me as the coach and shake my hand.
I love that.
And then I will turn to their coach and shake their hand. It's just become a bit of I've only noticed it really starting to increase in etiquette in the last probably 2 or 3 competitions we've been to.
Okay.
And I'm not mad about it.
No, I would encourage all gyms to have that etiquette. I think that's beautiful. And I want to add to that, the other thing I will say I have seen as well now, starting to be more the norm than the negative, is parents that my kids have come up against coming and seeking me out, irrelevant of the win or learn. Hey, that was a great match. Your kids are amazing. Oh, thank you. So are your kids.
Yes.
And really kind of putting humanity back into the process as well.
Absolutely.
We all want our kids to win.
Yep.
We're not there to let them lose. We're not there to hope they lose.
Yep.
We all want them to win. But at the same time, if our kids don't win, be happy and gracious for the kids that did
Yep.
and the effort they've put into it on match day too, you know.
Yep.
And I would say the same for adults. Like, get your head out of your ass. If you didn't win, learn. If you won, be humble. You know?
Absolutely.
And it goes up the chain to the coaches.
Because as you said before, and I'll reiterate it again, there's nothing more satisfying than if you win and you're not humble about it and you carry on like a whatever.
Fuck that.
Everybody's very happy to see you then lose.
Absolutely.
But if you win and you're really gracious and everyone doesn't care, it's like, oh, they're a great competitor. Look at them go, you know. And it's one thing I'm so proud of, like, you know, shout out to the competitors at Iconic. I've never had anyone disappoint me in that realm.
Yeah.
I've never had to speak to anyone. I just feel like they kind of already know what our expectations are and they just follow along and they just do it and they've all just represented so beautifully.
But it's the vibe of the people, right?
Absolutely.
Like, that screams volumes. You know, the vibe of the people in Iconic. I said that to Monique the other day. I said it amazes me how well everybody at Iconic gets along, even though there's clusters. There are absolutely clusters, but everybody just rallies in and you wouldn't have a clue what walk of life everybody's coming to because in their gear, in their gi, nobody has a clue. Everyone just gets along and it's the absolute vibe of the gym. And that comes from leadership within the gym.
Yep.
So, you know, if you are leaders of your gyms, make sure you've got your vibe in check because people are watching and learning from you and they will replicate that too. And, you know, fucktards will attract fucktards and
it comes from the
people.
top down,
That's
definitely.
It's who you attract into your gym.
Yep.
And if you've got fucktards, if you're, you know, heavy on that abusive, aggressive, horrible, must win at all costs, hurt everybody, maybe check you in as well because that kind of acceptance of this is okay behaviour is coming from somewhere. And let's try and change the landscape a little bit.
I think it is changing and I think probably overall we're seeing a little less of that behaviour possibly. I mean, you still see it from time to time, but it's really interesting. Like, you know, you're in the crowd and you see someone carry on negatively because they've lost or negatively, you know, because they've won.
Yep.
And everyone just looks around at each other and is like, oh my goodness, like what a turkey. You know, no one respects it. And so I think probably the more that starts to happen, the more it will change overall. But anyway, that's our 2 bits about competition, I suppose. Take it or leave it.
and have a go. Like, you've got nothing to lose. I honestly wish, it's probably the one regret in jiu-jitsu I have, is that I will probably, I'll never say absolutely, but I will probably never be able to compete. And that's probably, for me, that's hard. So I think if you're physically able in the age bracket where there are competitors in the space for you and you're a little bit curious, I'm not saying everybody should, but if you're like me and that kind of drives you, but it's, you know, anxiety, fear, whatever, or self-doubt, go and have a go. Get in there, especially in Australia. Let's build it up a bit and get more people in there.
And if you're like 12 to 15 female, jump in there.
Oh, come on, have a go. It'll be great. My kids want more friends. So
Absolutely.
let's do it and push.
So based on today,
what's
your hope?
Okay. My hope is that people come to competitions always with a positive outlook. If you're parents and there's coaches, let the coaches do what they do best. If your kids win, encourage them to be humble for the win. And if your kids lose, allow them to absorb it, to understand from it. Don't leave them there too long and never blame them. That's my hope.
Yep.
How about you?
Look, I don't know. If you're a parent, be a cheerleader. Your behaviour and the way that you speak to the kids can either make it or break it for them.
Absolutely.
So if you're like disappointed or, or, blaming oh, it wasn't you. The other kid did this, that, rah, 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 rah. Do you know what I mean? Like, take ownership, but also be positive.
Yeah.
And be a cheerleader. Those things really matter long term. And the kid will never see that it's because mum and dad was disappointed in me, therefore I'm mad at mum and dad. The kid will see mum and dad was disappointed in me, therefore jiu-jitsu sucks.
That's right.
You know? So check yourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Do better. Just do better.
Be a cheerleader. Like that's seriously, if you're a parent, that's all you need to do. If you're a coach, actively engage with your students. Don't scroll your Instagram while you're coaching them.
And don't abuse the other students on the mat.
And also, like we saw something very recently on, I think it was Reddit, where someone put up, you know, I lost in competition this weekend and now my coaches and my teammates are acting weird around me.
I saw that on Instagram the other day too.
Yeah, okay. So the thing is, like, if that's the case,
You're in the wrong gym.
I think you're in the wrong gym.
Yeah.
Like you're, you know, as coaches, Grant and I don't care if you win or lose on the day. Someone's going to win. It's either going to be you or it's going to be the other person.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, what we're really proud of, two things, is that you got out there and gave it a try, but your training in the lead up to it made everyone better in the gym. Because when you're focused on competition, you're rolling better, you've got that intensity, you've got this, that, everything else, you're looking at technique better, and a high tide raises all ships. So if you're competing and you're getting better because of it, guess what's happening to the rest of the room? The rest of the room's coming up with you.
That's right.
And so we're all getting better. So that's what we're really in for it. That's why we love competition.
Yeah.
But, you know, we'll never make anyone compete. If they don't want to, that's fine. It's a personal choice. We'll always encourage, because I think it's probably the closest anyone will ever get to a real fight.
Yeah.
You know, most people don't go around picking fights. But it gives you that understanding of how you deal with being under pressure.
Taken outside of your normal training partners.
Exactly.
Yeah. So put into that instance where it's a stranger
exactly
coming up against it.
So you'll react, your body will react in different ways. You'll get an adrenaline dump, this, that, everything else. So for us as coaches, we're just really proud to see our students, number one, represent us.
Yeah.
And number two, get better at jiu-jitsu, the thing they love.
Yeah.
Because they are focused in their training leading up to a competition. What happens on the day? Of course we want them to win. But if they don't win, oh well, let's learn from it and move on.
You nailed it, absolutely, and I agree with you 100%. Also, to those people out there that speak the positive but don't action the positive, keep that in check too. Like, there's a lot of people out there that will be agreeing with you, absolutely, 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 and then go and do the most retarded things or the fucktarded things on the mats as the coaches, as the parents, even as the competitors. Don't pretend you're walking the talk and talking the walk. Make sure you are talking the walk and walking the talk.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. You lost me with all the walkings and talkings.
Don't just say that, yes, you're that person who's positive and the cheerleader, and then act differently on the day.
Of course.
Make sure you're being honest with yourself and
checking yourself.
Check yourself.
Absolutely.
Make sure.
Cool.
Okay, before we go any further, I need to do some maths very quickly in my head and work out and validate whether or not this episode is pre or post.
It will be pre.
It will be pre. So 22nd of March. Guys, please don't forget, Subversion is on. One hell of a card that's coming down the line as well with some amazing competitors. It's the Australian #1 fight night. And, you know, come down, get your bum on the seat, come and experience the rock concert of Jiu-Jitsu. If you do happen to come down because you've heard it on here, please, by all means, come and say hello to us as well. We'd love to see you and say hi. We will both be there. 22nd of March. If they can't get their bums on seats,
they go to flowgrappling.com. Watch it there. Yeah, support it that way, because it all counts. Those numbers count.
That's it.
So make sure you watch it, because I tell you what, too, this card is amazing. Some of the biggest matches ever in Australian history on this card.
And like you've said many episodes before, if we want this stuff to build in Australia, then we've got to support it, right?
Absolutely. And that means if you're international too, get on and watch it.
Get online.
Enjoy it.
And let us know. Let us know what you think. We'd love to have the feedback. And
of
shoot
course,
it
we're
across to
cheering on
Matt and Tom.
Jaden, and Jaden's going to come onto our podcast after the match as well. Win or lose, win or learn, whatever, however you want to look at it. Just to talk to us about how his experience was. This is his third time, and he's so far undefeated. And, he's an incredible competitor, incredible athlete. We're really excited. We're going to have a big group there cheering him on, so it's going to be awesome.
Yay. All right, so 22nd of March, Subversion. Get online, get the tickets. Get online at moshtix.com.au. Yep, absolutely.
All
right, and if you like and whatever, what do you say? If you like,
if you like what you've heard today, like, share, and subscribe, and give us those 5 stars.
Yay!
Alrighty.
Have a great week.
You too.
See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.
This podcast is a My Broken Soldier production.
And brought to you by Iconic Jiu Jitsu.